our trained professional for the evening, Alana Gore. She is a registered dietitian, a licensed dietitian nutritionist with a certificate of training in adult and pediatric weight management. She received her BA in anthropology, BS in biology, and Master of Public Health Nutrition from University of North Carolina. She worked as a clinical dietitian for 5 years and currently serves the DMV community as a nutrition specialist for Giant Food. She believes nutrition is about balance, not perfection, and she hopes to inspire others to make every eating experience an adventure and making healthy choices and trying something new. So, welcome. Sorry about the echo. I don't know how bad it is for everyone else, but
It wasn't that bad, I promise.
okay.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Elena Gore. I am a registered dietitian, and today we're going to talk about gut health. And this is entitled A Microbiome Makeover. And what we're going to talk about is prebiotics and probiotics. And essentially, I'm going to go over what the microbiome is. It's a great program, so I hope that you learn a lot. Feel free to stop and ask me questions. You can type them into the chat, and then someone will stop me and alert me to a question, or you can save them for the end because there'll be time for that too. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. So when we talk about gut health, what we're really talking about is our microbiome. And a lot of people ask, what is a microbiome? So the microbiome is this really, really busy place. It's in our gut and it has trillions of microorganisms. And it's made up of thousands of different species, including fungi, bacteria, viruses, parasites. And while that all sounds bad, it's actually really, really good and a normal part of our life and a normal part of our health. And so this is all happening at a very, very microscopic level. And when these organisms are inside of the human body, their goal is to be balanced. So when you think about where these are located, most of them are going to be in your small intestines and it's going to be in your large intestines and especially in your colon. So, what is the role of the microbiome? It's going to help us digest our food. So, that is the main role. So, digestion. But what it also helps us do, what we don't think about a lot, is it regulates our immune system. So, we've realized recently that most of our immunity is in the gut, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. It also protects us against diseases and it helps us produce vitamins. So there are certain vitamins that the gut has to help us produce, especially vitamin B and vitamin K. And vitamin K we may know about because it helps our blood coagulate. So very, very important roles. And last but not least, it helps us generate serotonin. And for those of you who don't know what serotonin is, that's that feel-good hormone that you may, when you get that feeling like you've just done something great and you feel rewarded, that is serotonin. So there's so many roles that it plays, and think about how we need all of these things on a day-to-day basis. So in our daily operations, we need to make sure that our gut is healthy. So when we think about our microbiome, we all have a unique network of what we call microbiota. And it's unique because our immune systems are different, our environment is different, and the good bacteria that's in there, that's going to help us digest our food and help fight this disease. What we really, really need to focus on again is balance. Because when we don't have a lot of good bacteria, but instead we have bad bacteria, sometimes we can get gas, bloating, we can even get illnesses and even chronic diseases. So again, we're thinking about balance. We want the good bacteria to be healthy and happy so that it helps us to fight the bad bacteria. When this balance is disrupted, you may notice things like weight changes. You may notice some chronic GI issues like, chronic pain, chronic nausea, even some skin conditions and changes to our mood. So when we think about this, we know that the immune system is critically intertwined with our gut health. 70% of our immune system is actually located in the gut. Okay, I'm going to say that again. 70% of our immune system is located in the gut. This is because it's a communication network. So it communicates with our immune cells. The gut microbiome controls how our body responds to infection. And so that balance, again, is super critical so we can actually fight connection. It's like if we have what it takes to heal something that's going on, but we don't have something to relay that message, stuff doesn't happen. So remember, think about that. Your gut is a key communicator. And also, when we think about that feel good hormone, serotonin, we think a lot about hormones in our mood and how we feel to be located in the brain. And that is, in fact, true for a lot of things. But that serotonin feel good hormone that we want, about 90% of that is created in the gut. All right. So think about your brain health, your mental health, your immune health, your metabolic health. They are super connected. So let's talk about, let's see. I don't know why this won't go on. Okay. So now that we know that we need to keep our microbiota healthy, we need to keep a healthy gut. We need to talk about how to build our biome. So that's what I'm here to actually talk to you about. The microbiome is there. It produces our feel-good hormone. It helps us fight diseases, and it helps us to produce even vitamins and different things. But we need to take care of what we already have. So we need to feed the bacteria that we have in our gut to help it thrive. So when people ask me, well, what can I do to build my biome better? Well, you already have one. It may be a little out of whack, maybe a little out of balance, but what we want to do is keep that one as healthy as we can. And then after we do what we need to do to keep that healthy, then we want to introduce more healthy bacteria into our gut. And then last, we want to create an environment that keeps that balance. So if it's off balance, that's okay. We're going to keep it healthy, introduce some new things to help rebalance it, and then we're going to do some things to help keep that up. So let's first talk about feeding our current microbiome with prebiotics. Now, a lot of times people hear probiotics and they know that a lot of things have probiotics, but prebiotics is before that, right? So those gut microbiome, or that gut microbiome, that bacteria, those viruses, different things that are there, they need food as well. So we need them to operate well, and we do that by feeding them high fiber foods. Prebiotics is just high fiber foods. And the thing to remember is that fiber is something we hear a lot about, but you hear so much about it is because most of us are not getting enough of it. So most of us get under 15 grams a day. And as you can see here, your daily goal should be 25 to 34 grams of fiber each day. So if we're thinking that we're having gut issues, our gut microbiome's off, more likely it's because our fiber is not high enough. So we want to think about adding more fiber to our diet so that we can get prebiotics. And that's going to be the food for those probiotics for that good gut health. So where do we find it? You can always start in the produce section when you're talking to a nutritionist. You can always start there. So, vegetables, especially things like artichokes, asparagus, those green leafies. Vegetables are arguably the healthiest of all the food groups. And one of the reasons is because it's a great source of fiber without being a high source of sugar or calories. So, the ones that are listed here are the ones that have the highest amount of fiber per serving. So if you see something here that you like to eat, go ahead and get a little bit of extra of that the next time that you're in the grocery store. This includes garlic and onions, which are aromatic vegetables, which help us with taste and flavor. So just have as much of that as you like. So be sure to add this to your shopping list next time when you're thinking about those prebiotics. And if you can't tell here, green is the theme here. Green leafy vegetables and green vegetables kind of have a monopoly here. Also, when we're talking about fruit, fruit is also high in fiber, especially fruits that we eat when we can eat the skin on them, or they have like what I call the inner skin. They have like an inner network working there. So these are the fruits that have the highest amount of fiber per serving of them. So avocados, you hear a lot about that in health. It also has healthy fats. It's got fiber in it. Bananas, blackberries. So think about those seeds, the seediness of blackberries. Lots of fiber in there. Passion fruit, if you're a passion fruit or guava fan, get you a little exotic fruit happening. And then another one of my favorites is raspberries. So remember that when you think about increasing your produce, your fruits and vegetables, you can get these fresh, and that's great. But you can also get them frozen and canned, and those are great options for you as well. If you are moving on from the produce department, there are prebiotics and fiber everywhere. So, some other plant based sources or some other sources of prebiotics are beans and legumes. So, again, get those black beans, kidney beans, navy beans. There's so many different types. You can also do whole grains. So, whole grains have more fiber in them. They usually say whole grain, look for the word whole when you're shopping for them. Look for whole wheat pasta, whole grain oatmeal. You could do whole grain rice, like such as brown rice. So look for that. And also nuts and seeds. So think your chia seeds, your almonds, your flax seeds. These are really easy to add to a smoothie if you want to do that, or add to a salad. So find a way to incorporate that, because plant-based sources are really, really great sources of fiber. And they help balance out our diet as well. So it's not just for the prebiotics, it's not just for the fiber, it's for some of those other micronutrients that are in there as well. So remember that nuts and seeds are also full of fiber, but they're also full of healthy, heart healthy fats. So don't forget to add those in there. Another place that you can find them is in something called polyphenols. So, polyphenols are a type of antioxidant. They aren't fiber themselves, but they're considered prebiotics because they promote the growth of that good, healthy gut, or that good, healthy bacteria in your gut. I always want to call everything gut bacteria. So, when we're thinking about that beneficial bacteria, that good bacteria, we know that polyphenols help promote their growth. So they're micronutrients, and they naturally occur in plants. They're also very, very powerful antioxidants. So they help us to fight cancers and different things. And this is what's going to activate our immune system. So adding compounds that are high in polyphenols are a really, really good addition to your diet as well. So you can get fiber from your produce as well as your whole grains and your beans, but you can also get it from things like green tea. And actually, red wine has a little bit in there. You can get it from spices and herbs, but green tea is a great, great choice. You also can get it from coffee. Let's see if it'll turn to the next slide. Oh, there it is. So you can get it from coffee. We know that medium or light roast actually have a little bit more polyphenols in it than dark roast, but again, dark roast is still a great choice. When you do tea, you can do oolong, you can do black, you can do green. They all have different types of antioxidants, different types of polyphenols, but they're all great for you. I will tell you that green tea does have the highest amount of polyphenols. Now, when you're thinking about tea and coffee, be careful not to add too much too much sugar, too much honey, too much cream, because these are going to be full of saturated fat and added sugars that we may not need. Another great source of polyphenols is dark chocolate, and that's made from the cacao tree. And anytime you're looking or shopping for dark chocolate for polyphenols for that, to promote that gut health, look for it to have at least 70% cacao in it. And so just look on the front. There's usually always a percentage for dark chocolate, even if you get it in the nabs. And they have a lot of other health benefits. All right. So when you're thinking about polyphenols, I said red wine earlier. Remember, we have all alcohol in moderation, so this is not an excuse to start drinking. But one of my favorite sources of polyphenols are spices. So when you think about peppermint, star anise, cloves, this includes things like rosemary. This includes all the different herbs and spices that we can cook with. I love to add them to my food to add a lot more flavor, and I know that they're also adding some health benefits there. So that is our prebiotics. The next thing when we do prebiotics, remember the prebiotics are feeding the good gut bacteria that we have. Probiotics are the actual live active bacteria. So we said we want to do well with the microbiome that we already have. So when we do high fiber foods, whatever bacteria is there, it's going to eat up that fiber and it's going to go to work and do its job. Then, after we help the microbiome we already have, our next step was to introduce new good bacteria. So, in introducing new, this is where probiotics come in. So, you want to have at least one bacteria rich food each day to kind of do and get this new introduction. All right. Probiotics are actually live active bacteria. We will notice that a lot of foods that contain probiotics require refrigeration, and a lot of times that's because that bacteria is in there. There's several types of bacteria that have been studied, and it's just been shown that they are beneficial to us. So sometimes when you turn around the label and you start looking, and you'll see lactobacillus, and you'll see all these different types of strains, we know that those have been proven to help us with our gut health, but we also know there's a lot of them that we don't know may be helpful. So again, you just go for probiotics or you go for bacteria rich foods. So where can we find those? The dairy department. That's probably something somebody thought of because every time I think of probiotics, I think of an Activia commercial. And it makes sense because they have been promoting live active cultures since their inception, but technically all yogurts have them. So they're just the ones that came out of the gate telling us about it, but we definitely want to everyone to know that most types of yogurt, it takes a lot to get the live bacteria out of yogurt. So again, all yogurt has that probiotic, some more than others. Yogurt that has low added sugar is going to be your best bet. So when you're thinking about dairy products, you want to be careful with things that have a lot of sugar added, which it will if it's berry flavored or some type of flavor. And you want to be careful if it's dairy based and it's going to have that natural fat that's in there as well. So aim for some lower fat versions. So here's some other things you can think of, like cottage cheese. You could do a plant-based yogurt. Look for in the ingredients list, look for where it says live active cultures. That's how you know for sure that it has probiotics in there. Kefir is something that we've talked a lot about in our Healthier Together program. And it's because a lot of people don't know about it, but it's like a yogurt, but it's thinner and it's more of like a drink type consistency. And it does have more probiotic strains, so more different types of probiotics than yogurt alone. So a lot of people have it by itself, but you can also use it to add to a smoothie. So when you would normally add yogurt, maybe try kefir this next time and see if you like it. Another source of probiotics, so that live active bacteria, is going to be your fermented foods. So this is kimchi, pickles, sauerkraut, even some tempeh and miso. A lot of times people will ask me about kombucha, and kombucha is a great source of probiotics. So fermentation is that process where it's been allowed to sit and these things have been allowed to grow, but it is in fact good for our gut. All right. Every time someone tells me like, ew, and they go yucky. Yes, it's fermented, but it's a lot like when we think about beers and wines. So these fermented foods we can add. I know kimchi, I get a lot of times in Asian cuisine. You can look for different brands, and you can find them in beverages. You can find it in tea. But think about a lot of times pickled items when you're thinking of this. If you're not a huge sauerkraut fan, maybe you like pickling or maybe you like pickles. There's a lot that you can look for. Miso is one that's commonly misunderstood. So if you're in the aisles and you're looking for miso, miso is a paste and it is made from fermented soybeans. All right. So this is where it's going to be cultivated from a fermented grain like a rice or a barley. And it's actually like a fungus. But again, it has a lot of different strains and it can be good for us. We usually find it a lot in Japanese cooking, but you can cook some at home if you'd like. Now, with probiotics, there are a lot of supplements and there's a lot of advice given on this. So, we are not opposed to supplements. As a nutritionist, I will always tell you to get things from food first. But there are a wide variety of strains, and it's really hard to know like what's good for me. Is this a good probiotic? So, the thing that you want to do is that you want it to have a large number of CFUs. So, if you look to the right, when you see in the millions and billions, that's pretty good because remember, there's millions and billions and trillions of gut within your body. Okay. So if your primary care provider does recommend a supplement, just know that each supplement will vary. And a lot of times they are not regulated by the FDA. So it's a lot harder to say like which one is better, which one is not. Some are easy to take on an empty stomach. Some you have to take with food. Some are actually shelf stable and they can stay out. Others you have to refrigerate. So it varies a lot. So I would say stick to food. If you can add one of those foods per day, whether you just have a yogurt one day, a little kimchi the next day, this is an option. Always consult your doctor first, especially if you're on other medications. All right. So that is how we feed our gut. So we have our microbiota, we eat a lot of fibrous foods, and then we add new, good, healthy bacteria to it. So now let's talk about how it should thrive. We're gonna help it with prebiotics, we're gonna offer new stuff with probiotics, but how do we keep it balanced? So let's talk about some gut disruptors. So when you're talking about balance, there's always something that throws off the balance. And one of those things is alcohol and smoking. Alcohol and smoking, alcohol and smoking. So I say this a lot because these are controllable behaviors. So even having a high salt, high fat diet can also disrupt your gut balance. When you're thinking about alcohol intake, be sure to do it in moderation. We recommend no more than one drink for women, especially when we're talking about like red wine per day, no more than two drinks for men per day. But if it's something that's a little bit stronger, like liquor or liquor base, that recommendation would change. When you drink alcohol, I don't know if anyone's ever had a stomach ache after drinking alcohol, but we do know that it, in fact, impacts gut health. Anytime someone has chronic alcohol intake or chronic smoking, it's been shown to reduce the diversity of the microbiome. So that means that you have fewer strains in there. And then that means it can't really do what it needs to do. Um, we highly processed foods like sweets, high fat foods, like really, really high salt foods, even artificial sweeteners have been shown to cause an imbalance in our gut microbiota when we consume them on a regular basis. So remember, it's all about balance. Add those fibrous foods, those fruits and vegetables, just so we're not just focusing on a high packaged food diet. And be sure to do everything in moderation. So I would just say for smoking, if you're a smoker, I advise you to quit smoking because of that impact that it has on your health. But when it comes to sweet treats and salty foods, just treat yourself. Don't make it a habit of what you're eating every day. Another gut disruptor are antibiotics. So sometimes we get an infection and we are prescribed antibiotics and we know that we need them. We take them for the 7 to 10 days that our doctor tells us to take it. So you want to make sure that you're taking antibiotics only when it's prescribed to you. If you're a person that's taking it because you think something may be happening, we know that antibiotics, they're kind of like if you think about chemotherapy, where if anyone's ever had it or heard about it, what it does is that in order to kill the bad cells, it also has to kill some good cells. Antibiotics are like that. In order to get that bad bacteria that's actually causing you some disease, it also has to kill off a lot of the good bacteria. All right. So because of that, it can tend to, I call it like it wipes away some of our gut microbiota. Now, you still need to take your antibiotics when the doctor tells you to, but then after you are healed, after that infection is gone, you want to make sure that you go back to step 2 where you're introducing more of that good bacteria to your gut through yogurt and fermented foods, maybe even a kombucha or so. So when you're thinking about antibiotics, only take them when prescribed and be sure that you're doing something to boost your microbiome afterwards. Now, after you take antibiotics for 7 to 10 days on average, the good news is that most of the bacteria is going to return to normal, like it's going to grow and get back to that good amount within 4 weeks. But the thing is that it's not going to come back to the exact same levels. So remember, we need to add that boost by eating those probiotic and prebiotic rich foods. Now, let's talk about things that are gut builders. So we know if we're smoking and vaping or if we're drinking and then also taking antibiotics, it can disrupt our gut microbiome. But there are other things that we can do other than eating well that's going to boost our gut microbiome. And one of those is relaxation. R&R, good old rest and relaxation. This is an underutilized quality. A lot of us are busy and we're go, go, go. And if we're not on go, 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 a lot of times we're very stressed. So, what we need to do is make sure that we understand how to relax and how to rest because it is impacting our gut. That gut brain axis that I talked about a little earlier, how our gut communicates with our brain, helps us produce our serotonin. A lot of things in our mental health are affected. So, our emotional and mental health can impact our microbiome. And this is an easy symptom if you've ever been extremely stressed and then you lose your appetite. That is an example of an emotion causing some sort of GI disruption. The GI tract is extremely sensitive to emotion. So when you're sad, when you're anxious, when you're angry, some of these feelings can trigger a lot of different symptoms in the gut. Maybe it's a loss of appetite, maybe it's inflammation, maybe it's a flare of something that you already have. So you definitely want to work on some quality R&R. Some recommendations are meditation, yoga, journaling, mindful practices, walks in nature, but find what works for you. Um, and don't forget to sleep. You must sleep. All right, let's get some good rest. We can't really rest and relax without a good sleep regimen. So we want to aim for those 7 to 9 hours. Remember, this is where we rejuvenate. This is where we're restored. This is where things can grow, where things are processing. So you definitely need that sleep to build that gut health. And so this one shouldn't shock anyone, but physical activity helps increase the number and the diversity of the good bacteria in our microbiome. So again, thinking about that gut brain axis, it's going to boost our mental health. It's going to boost our physical health. Our muscles are going to get stronger. There's a lot of benefits to being physically active. But for our gut specifically, we want a lot of different types of bacteria and we want large numbers of that good bacteria so we can keep it in balance and help us fight disease. So the American Heart Association recommends 150 minutes of moderate physical activity each week. That breaks down to about 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. Or if you're a person, you want to do an hour a day, 3 days a week. Whatever breakdown helps you the best, you want to intentionally be active. It does not have to be completely all or nothing. You can just start moving today. You can start with a little bit and then eventually build to 5 times a week or eventually build to 150 minutes a week. But you don't have to do it all today, but you do need to start moving. It's really, really good for your gut. It also helps us with the digestion process, relieving constipation. When we generally eat a balanced diet, this can also help build our gut. So while we need prebiotics and probiotics, we also need other nutrients from other foods. So we want to make sure that we're putting those green leafies and those great fruits and vegetables that we saw on that slide into our repartee every day. We want to make sure that we're just eating and getting it in there. Half a plate fruits and vegetables. We also want a half a plate of those high fiber grains. half a plate of lean protein. And then if you're going to add dairy, which we know with the yogurt, the kefir, and other things, the plant-based dairy, make sure it is probiotic rich. So you want to make sure that you're building that great plate. Of course, we have guiding stars on here. So at Giant, we do have the stars as you're shopping. They're right next to the price tag. So if you want to know if something is good for your gut and good for your health, if it has 1, 2, or 3 stars next to it, you can go ahead and grab it because you already know that it's good for you. A lot of these foods are very, very high in fiber, especially when it has 2 and 3 stars. So they're going to get credits for vitamins and minerals and micronutrients that we need in fiber. And then it's going to have a lot less of that sugar, that high salt, that high sugar, and the fats that we talked about can actually help disrupt your gut microbiome. We also have recipes that are rated 1, 2, and 3 stars. So if you look through our Savory magazine, you can see there. So if you need some good gut promoting recipes, there are some there available for you if you want to learn how to incorporate or how to make kimchi or something like that. Be sure to check that out. And if you have any questions, you can go to giantfood.com/healthy living, or you can go to guidingstars.com. And so those are lots of resources there. And we just do this to help make shopping for you a lot easier. Before I finish today, what I do want to remind everyone is that we are having our Healthier Together Food is Medicine program, and March is all about our store tours. So please feel free to check out if you want to come into the store and shop with us so we can show you a little bit more about our gut health and everything like that. Please come by. You can register on our website, and I'll go ahead and show it to you. You can use your smartphone and you can take a picture of this QR code, or you can just go to giantfood.com/healthy living or giantfood.com/healthier together. And there you can definitely find how to register, come out for a store tour. We're doing them across the entire DMV. So they will be in different counties, wherever you may be. See if a time works for you and you can have some in-person one-on-one shopping with that. So that is all I have today. Are there any questions?
Yes, we did have some good questions that came up in the chat, and thank you so much. That was an amazing presentation. I feel like I learned way more than I thought, like, or not more than I thought, but like there's so much more that goes into gut health than I thought. Like I didn't realize all that stuff about like exercise and like relaxing. So I thought it was all gonna be about food. So that was really cool.
Great.
Um, I'll read off these questions to you and feel free to continue putting your questions in the chat. The first question, does green tea have caffeine?
Yes. So when it comes to teas, you may have to be careful with the caffeine. That's a great point. So caffeine is one of those things, it doesn't have a lot to do with gut health, but we know that caffeine affects people differently. So you want to make sure that you're not having any more than about 200 milligrams of caffeine per beverage that you have. And most beverages like coffee, like 1 cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams. And then 1 cup of tea has about 50, somewhere between 30 and 50 milligrams of caffeine. So you can have multiple cups a day, but you want to make sure you're not having more than 200 in one particular beverage, and then no more than 400 milligrams for the day. All right. So if you're calculating and every cup of coffee has about 100, you can still have up to 4 cups of coffee without usually going overboard for most people. So yes, be careful with the caffeine, but the caffeine does not necessarily affect your gut health negatively, but it can have some effects for other people. I do know that it helps keep some people regular. We find that with hot beverages like coffee and tea. So you want to watch that with coffee and tea.
Good to
Great
know. Thank
question.
you. Someone said I'm allergic to dairy. Where can I get dairy probiotics?
So dairy is a great source of probiotics, but there's also a lot of plant-based options. So an example would be dried fruits. A lot of dried fruits, if you go into the store, you'll see like I can see the apricots now. It's dried apricots and it'll say big probiotics across it. So there's a lot of those. There's also a lot of non-dairy yogurts that will have probiotics in it. So soy-based, almond-based, oat-based, all of these are very, very popular. Lots of companies out there building a lot of products. So just look on those dairy-free products for probiotics. They're adding it to a lot of things. Sauerkraut, kimchi, those are dairy free as well. So those fermented foods may be a good choice, trying some kombucha. But we do know that dairy and that yogurt is a great active source, but they have a lot of brands out there with dairy free versions and probiotic rich.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I've tried the almond milk one and the coconut, and they're not bad.
Yeah.
Um, Someone said fermented foods is beets considered a fermented food?
Not regular beets. I'm a huge fan of pickled beets, absolutely. And so both all of this is going to depend. So I'm originally from North Carolina, where we pickle a lot of food ourselves. So I can't speak to how long those sat and how fermented they are. But pickling is something that you can do tomorrow and then start eating it the next day. It's not going to be as fermented. It's not going to have as many bacteria as if you've let it sit for longer, right? We know that products that we sell at the store that are pickled and that claim to have probiotics in them have a certain amount. So they've let it sit, let it do its process for a while. But pickled beets may, in fact, have more probiotics than regular beets, to answer your question. And the longer the pickled beets have set, like probably the more probiotics it will have.
So, we got a couple more questions. Somebody is asking which is better, capsules or refrigerated probiotics as a supplement?
So again, supplements will vary. So it mostly depends on what's in it. So if you remember that slide that had the list of all the like names no one can ever pronounce, you want as many types there. So as many different lines to say a different type, and you want really, really high numbers. So if you notice that the ones that are refrigerated have more types and higher numbers, then I would say probably those. If you find a shelf stable one that has more of those higher numbers, go with that one. But I think it's going to be more about the diversity, so the different types, and then making sure it has high numbers like 1.5 million and 1.5 billion CFUs and things like that. That's going to be most important. It's going to vary brand to brand because remember, supplements are not regulated by the FDA. So they don't have to have a set amount or certain amount in order to sell the product.
Got it. Yes, thank you for that reminder. I always forget about that. Um, and let's see, what's the next question? How about people suffering from IBS with so many food restrictions, dairy, gluten, garlic, etc.?
So IBS is very complicated, and if you want a one-on-one session, be sure to check us out. So in general, the research shows that when someone with IBS is not having a flare, they can indulge in certain foods, but they want to be careful that these foods do not cause a flare. So it will be on an individual basis. I will say that if you find that gluten is irritating, don't eat gluten. But if you find that when you're not having an IBS flare, you can tolerate a little bit of dairy, maybe try a little bit of dairy, or maybe try the dairy-free probiotic rich, versions of things. Maybe try some dried fruit. IBS is complicated, so that person, whoever you're speaking, even on behalf of yourself or someone else, will literally have to try it, figure out that it doesn't work, and then write it down and say, I'm never doing that again. And then, or try it and say, this works for me and this is okay. Fiber can be a little irritating during a flare. So, again, you have to be careful during a flare, but outside of a flare, I would definitely try these foods, see if some of them work, because still your gut health is really important. But IBS just causes, there's a few more triggers that maybe other people don't have to cause inflammation, and some of these foods can do it. So again, little tricky, but try it when not a flare and see if it works.
Great, thank you. Somebody said, heard a lot about making your own yogurt. Any recommendations or suggestions?
Like making from scratch, like you creating
Yeah, I
it.
think so.
Okay. Um, I have not heard a lot about that. Sounds fun. I would just say again, because it's being made, no one would be able to tell you the strains of probiotics that are in there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to do a little bit more research on that. I think you need to be careful food safety wise when creating yogurt. That's
Mm,
actually the first thing that came to mind. Making sure that if you're fermenting, a fermenting process usually has to be done with a lot of knowledge and care. Most people can't just ferment for long periods of time without causing some potential like harmful bacteria to come to light. We have to be concerned with canning and botulism. We have to be concerned with dairy-based products sitting out and what that means. So I would do a lot of research on that, and I would make sure that you're very thorough in how to make sure that you're not ingesting something that could be harmful. I think it's a pretty tedious process, and I hadn't heard about that, so I'll see. I'll look into it.
yeah, me either. Um, Somebody said you have to heat the sauerkraut, I think, before eating it.
Do you have to? I don't
Mhm.
know, not at all. So yes,
Okay.
sauerkraut is already fermented. It's that a lot of fermented things that we think about have that vinegar taste. They have that sour taste. So again, kimchi has spices and tastes kind of like vinegar. Sauerkraut tastes like vinegar cabbage. Kombucha tastes like vinegar liquid, right? Like vinegar with other things. No, it does not have to be heated. It can be cooled. The key to these things is that it's fermented. So it needs to have gone through the fermentation process, which usually just takes sitting. So you put a little vinegar and some other stuff, and it gets complicated, but basically it's just a little vinegar, and then you just let it sit for a long time, and then things happen. But again, food safety wise, you just want to be careful.
Yes, thank you. And then we got some comments in here saying thank you, great information. And then someone's asking if the slides will be shared. So, Alina, if you share the slides with me, I can make sure to get them out to
Ye-
everyone.
yes, I can send a PDF copy so that you
Okay,
can send
that's
them to
perfect.
everyone.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank
I think
you.
there's a few more questions. Let's
Yeah.
see. Someone said, I assume it's very important to also drink water in addition to all the prebiotics and probiotic foods.
Oh, absolutely. It's always great to drink water. We need water for all the balance. So remember, health is about balance. It's not about these set things. This is great advice, but we have to balance it out with other things. And water is essential to everything. So make sure that you're getting bare minimum on a day where you're just sleeping in all day, 64 ounces a day. And then on average, you want to go closer to 80 ounces a day of water, but that's just for regular balance. I'm actually a little dehydrated today. Thanks for
Me
that
too.
reminder.
I was thinking that too whenever you were presenting. I was like, oh, I did not drink enough water today. Especially like when you drink coffee a lot and then yeah, need to balance it out. Um, another question came in. Let's see. Why do you need to keep taking probiotics once your gut is in good shape microbiome wise?
So you don't necessarily have to keep taking them. Think of probiotics outside of supplements. Think of it as a part of a natural, like healthy meal. So it's like we know protein is good for us, but we eat protein every day to make sure we're keeping the amount that we need. So probiotics are very similar. It's like you have your gut, you have a certain number of microorganisms in there, but microorganisms multiply, they die, they like have a really really fast cycle, so you're never having the exact same amount of anything that you had yesterday. You're gonna When you poop out some of those microorganisms, right? They line our colon, they line our rectum. When you pee out a few of those microorganisms, even though not usually through the gut, right? But there are other microorganisms. So they're constantly changing. There's millions, billions, trillions. So you can never really keep the same number. We can never really keep up with it. So what you're doing is maintaining access to good, healthy bacteria. That's what your goal is. Just like you maintain access to protein, just like you maintain access to carbohydrates for your body by eating it. Everyone doesn't eat carbohydrates every single day. Everyone doesn't have a meat every single day. But you just want to make it a part of your healthy, balanced diet. And some of the foods we already eat have probiotics and prebiotics in them. So yeah, this doesn't mean you have to go eat like a scoop of sauerkraut or kimchi every day. This is more about being knowledgeable. Like if your gut is feeling a little off, maybe just go eat some more green leafies. Then maybe start a probiotic, like or a probiotic rich food, or just incorporating it once a week, once every other day, whatever feels good to you and your body. So yeah.
Great, thank you. And speaking of kimchi, someone asked if kimchi goes bad.
So, fermented foods can be really complicated in how they are actually done and stored. So, there are, for example, that those dried apricots that I was talking about, clearly those are shelf stable and they also have probiotics in them. Whereas when I get sauerkraut, I put sauerkraut in the refrigerator. So, I assume anything that I put in the refrigerator has the potential to go bad. When I see kimchi in the store, it's in the refrigerated section. So I'm going to assume there is some version of where it can go bad. Because it's fermented, I think it has a higher shelf life even in the refrigerator than, say, like strawberries, fresh strawberries. But I would pay attention to the packaging. And one thing I always say is store it as you bought it. So if you bought it from the refrigerated section, it needs to go into the refrigerator to keep it as fresh for as long as possible. So maybe that's a month, maybe that's a couple weeks. I don't actually know. I'd have to look at that the next time I see the kimchi. But if you bought it and it was shelf stable when you bought it, it was sitting on the aisle with no mist, no refrigeration, then definitely, I think it probably won't go bad until, the shelf life runs out of it. So I think it's going to vary. But yes, I'm gonna go with yes, it can go bad since it needs to be refrigerated.
Yes, thank you. And I think this is a response to what you said about the yogurt. Someone said, seems complicated and food safety has to be priority, which definitely agree with that.
I do.
Um,
Yeah, I would just again consult someone who does food about making yogurt before making yogurt. I think my food safety alert went off in my head like that does not sound food safe at all. But I'm sure there are ways to do it. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, I'd be scared to do that. Somebody else asked, any recommendations for probiotic supplement pills for women?
Not necessarily. So again, I recommend food. So food first from me. All supplements vary. So I would have to look at a brand, look at the back of it, research it, figure out this. Like it would be so like it'd be easier if you were deciding between one or two, and then I could like look into the research to do and let you know which one I think is a little bit better for you. Women in particular, there's a lot of research for that question about the microbiota because we also have vaginal microbiota that we don't talk enough about. And a lot of the good, healthy bacteria that we eat for our gut is also very beneficial for our vaginal health. So very good question. And right now, the answer would be still continue to eat those same foods, like those vegetables, those fruits that are really high in fiber, and then get some probiotics with the most diversity again, because the more that it has in there, the more likely one of those is also beneficial for vaginal health, specifically to women. So that's what I would say.
Awesome, thank you. And I
Yeah.
don't see any more questions. I'm hoping I didn't miss anything. Um, so if anybody has any additional questions, you can feel free to put it in the chat. But that was just really, really great information and very timely. I feel like probiotics and prebiotics are like all trending right now with like all the pills that are coming out and things. So it's really helpful to have all your knowledge poured out on us so that
Yeah.
we know and we can make safe and smart decisions. So yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
The only other thing I wanted to note is that we said in here antibiotics. Don't take probiotics while you're taking antibiotics. So I did not mention that before. So you're basically just taking it to get it killed off by the antibiotic, right? So your goal is to take your antibiotic as prescribed, and then once it's done, then restart your probiotics, or especially if you have like a pill that's probiotics, still continue to eat probiotic rich foods, that's fine, but just know that it's definitely working no matter how much you feed it. So just save yourself the time and the resources. Just kind of wait till you finish the antibiotics and then jump on it again to kind of replenish it.
Great, thank you. And two more questions just came in, so I will read those up real quick. We've got some time
Yeah.
left. Um, one question was, are you familiar with pre-bio M products?
Prebio end
M,
products.
because in mom.
OM products. No, that doesn't sound familiar to me. Is that a brand? Is that
It
what?
seems like it. I haven't heard of it either, though. Um, Cecilia, if you want to clarify if it's a brand or something that you've heard
Yeah.
of.
Is it a pill? Is it a like a like something?
Um, if she wants to drop that in the chat, I have another question I could go to.
Okay.
Somebody's asking, what about GERD or acid reflux?
So again, GERD or acid reflux, really complicated when it comes to what triggers that for most people. So I definitely recommend to the question, kimchi and kombucha and things like that, they're acid based, right? They have that vinegar flavor and that acidic residue or that acidic flavor and property that can be really, really irritating to GERD. I would recommend doing the more cream or yogurt based products for probiotics when it comes to GERD or acid reflux. A lot of protein based yogurt. So when you're thinking yogurt, you can still do the non dairy form if you avoid dairy for your GERD. It just depends. But yeah, I would go for those more cream based, those the ones that are a little bit more less acidic, so have less spice, less citrus, less acid in them. Kombucha is almost like a soda sometimes. I don't recommend that if you're having a GERD flare, you know. Um, Again, different types of food. Definitely go hard in the prebiotics if you have GERD. So think about those green leafies, those fruits that are rich in fiber. I do get a lot of questions about fruits themselves because they can be a little triggering. And the more you warm something when you have GERD, the more likely you are to reduce some of the symptoms. So, for example, if you can't really tolerate a certain vegetable when you're because it triggers your GERD, try heating that vegetable, maybe cooking it a little bit more to help denature some of those proteins and see if you can tolerate it a little bit better when it's cooked a little bit more. So I would lean into those fruits and vegetables with GERD, and those yogurt based products or cream based products. Kind of avoid the vinegar based kimchi fermented foods if they are triggering.
Got it. Thank you. And Cecilia clarified, she said the brand is Pre-Bio USA. It's powder.
Oh, got you. So again, there's a lot of forms of probiotics. You could do it in pill form, you could do it in powder form, you can do it in a lot of different ways. I don't think there's ever a bad probiotic. I just think it's not a regulated probiotic. So again, because the FDA doesn't do it, I can't really offer advice to let you know that that in particular is going to do what it's supposed to do. I would have to read it. I would have to read the consistency on it. I am more than happy to like look it up and let you know at a later date. But just remember that it all varies so much. And if you're taking a probiotic, you're doing well, right? Even if it's not the best probiotic known to man are on the market, like it's still more than what you were doing before. So as long as it doesn't cause any irritation, as long as it doesn't contain anything you're allergic to, it's not causing any nausea, vomiting, like I would say, like go for it, try it, see if you like it. But don't forget to eat those fruits and vegetables too. So you still have to feed that probiotic when you get it in there.
More great reasons to eat fruits and vegetables. I didn't know all that about fruits and vegetables too, so that's really helpful. And then we have one more question. This might be our last question before we run out of time. But someone mentioned earlier that sauerkraut has a lot of sodium, and then another person asked, "Can you purchase low sodium sauerkraut?"
You absolutely can. And I do believe you can make sauerkraut. And it's not as like making yogurt. It's not, I like, food safety wise, I think it's pretty safe because again, it's more of a pickling process that a lot of people do. Um, you can buy low sodium. There are some brands that do that. The more you make things, the better. So if you can make it yourself, that would be great. Just account for the salt when you do it. So if you buy one and it seems a little salty, maybe just have a little bit less of it this time and then maybe buy another brand the next time. But I'm pretty sure there are some low sodium options because it's mostly about that vinegar and fermentation process, but they also add a little salt to the fermentation process to help it along. So,
Great. Thank you so, so, so much, Elena, for taking the time to be here with us tonight.
yeah,
Everyone's saying in the chat it's great information and they're all thanking you. So
of
I
course.
also repeat that. Thank you so much. Um, and more comments are coming in. They're saying thank you.
Got you. Thank you
um,
all so much. You've been a great group. Great questions. I appreciate it. And
yeah, it was a
again,
good
if at any
presentation.
time you have any more, just healthyliving@giantfood.com is our email. Feel free to send them our way and we will answer those. And don't forget to register for a food store tour this March if you feel like, or this month, if you feel like that's something that would be helpful and beneficial to you. We'll be all over the place, Virginia, Maryland, and DC. So, and a little
Great.
bit of
Thank
Delaware
you.
too, I think.
Awesome. And if you want to drop the website in the chat, I put the email for you, healthyliving@giantfood, right? .com.
Yes, and then
Okay,
our
perfect.
eatgiantfood.com/healthier together. That will take you to the where you can register for a tour if you want to do that this month.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
of course.
Um, so now we'll go ahead and move on to announcements. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. But before we leave, I do have a few quick announcements. So we want your feedback. Please complete the evaluation survey within 24 hours to be entered into a drawing for a health and wellness gift bag. I also just put that evaluation in the chat, so you can go ahead and complete it now if you'd like. Um, Also, please join us for our next virtual session. It takes place on Thursday, March 21st from 6 to 7 p.m. It's titled One Pan Wonder Low Cost Meal Cooking Demonstration. And you can also join us for virtual Dine, Learn, and Move program. This next one takes place on March 27th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And you can also visit pgparks.com to see the complete list of March National Nutrition Month offerings. So yes, thank you all so much for joining us and have a great rest of your evening. We hope to see you at our upcoming events.
Thank you for joining us for this virtual session. For more videos and information on upcoming program offerings, visit the Health and Wellness page on pgparks.com or contact us at
At the stop sign, turn left onto Westchester Drive.
Healthy, be well.